Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Eshki Dragonclaw. It is a 4 mana 4/4 with Vigilance, Trample and Ward 1. So already a bunch of powerful keywords that work great for a Voltron creature, and it also has a very useful triggered ability. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've cast both a creature spell and a non-creature spell, this turn draw a card and put 2 +1/+1 counters on Eshki. I have built this deck to be a more Voltron strategy that tries to use Eshki's triggered ability to grow her to a massive creature and also to never run out of gas with its card draw mechanic in a lot of different unique ways to win the game with commander damage. But first, we are in Temur colors, so in the early game we want to ramp and get a few different color pips onto the battlefield so that we can cast Eshki. So we play cards like Growth Spiral, a 2 mana instant, you draw a card and you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, and remember that it comes into play untapped. We also play Planar Genesis, a 2 mana instant, look at the top 4 cards of your library, you may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put a card from among them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Of course we play Nature's Law, a 2 mana sorcery, search a library for a forest card, put it onto the battlefield and then shuffle. We also draw another card with Explore, a 2 mana sorcery, you may play an additional land this turn and you draw a card. Our best turn 1 play is Utopia Sprawl, a 1 mana enchantment, and you enchant a forest, and as it enters the battlefield choose a color. Whenever enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. Due to Eshki caring about creatures and non-creature spells, we also play Sakura Tribe Elder, aka Steve. It is a 2 mana 1/1 and you can sacrifice it at any time to search a library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. Once we have accelerated our land count, we can bring out Eshki and she should be pretty safe due to her Ward 1 mechanic, and at our next turn we want to suit her up with powerful enchantments and artifact equipments, and in the best case also trigger her ability to make her grow and draw another card. So we play Brotherhood Regalia, a 2 mana artifact equipment, equip creature as Ward 2, is an assassin in addition to its other types and can't be blocked. Pretty relevant for us is that we can equip it for 1 mana to a legendary creature, which will be Eshki in most cases. We play Combat Research, a 1 mana enchantment aura, an enchanted creature as whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Furthermore, as long as enchanted creature is legendary, it gets +1/+1 and has Ward 1. For even more evasion, we play Arcane Flight, a 1 mana enchantment, an enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. For even more evasion and protection, we play Winged Boots, a 2 mana artifact equipment, and if equipped creature has flying and Ward 4. To make her grow even faster, we play Forced Adaptation, a 1 mana enchantment aura, and at the beginning of your upkeep put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. And last but not least, you will see a bunch of 2-faced cards in my deck list, for example Two-Handed Axe, a 3 mana artifact equipment, and whenever equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. It also has an instant side, Sweeping Cleave, a 2 mana instant, target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So far I have listed a bunch of non-creature spells and also dual-faced spells, as you can see, which already feed one side of Eshki's triggered ability, and now we will need a few creature spells that will help us in a Voltron strategy. For example, we play Bone Crusher Giant, a 3 mana 4/3, and whenever it becomes the target of a spell, Bone Crusher Giant deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. It also has an instant speed side with Stomp, a 2 mana instant, damage can't be prevented this turn, which is relevant for our strategy, and Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. With just 1 card we can sling 2 spells together that are either a non-creature and also a creature spell, which means that investing 1 card with 2 spells will trigger Eshki's ability, so to draw us another card, to make us never run out of gas, and even so gain even more tempo. Just like Brazen Borrower, a 3 mana 3/1 with flash and flying, and it can block only creatures with flying. It also has the Petty Theft instant speed side for 2 mana, return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. We also play Kellen, Inquisitive Prodigy, a 4 mana 3/4 with flying and vigilance, and whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target artifact. If you controlled that permanent, draw a card. Kellen also has a sorcery side which is great for the early game, which is Taili's Suspect, a 2-mana sorcery. First you investigate and then you may play an additional land this turn. Another great card for even more card advantage is Questing Druid, a 2-mana 1/1, and whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black or red, put a 1/1 counter on Questing Druid. It also has the Seek the Beast instant speed adventure for 2 mana, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until your next end step you may play those cards. Once we did cast both of the sides of these creature spells, we will have them on the battlefield, but they won't be any good for us as we play a Voltron strategy, so we'd like to bring them back to our hand to recast them in the next turn to get another Eshki trigger. So we play Fear of Isolation, a 2-mana 2/3, and as an additional cost to cast a spell, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand and it has flying. This creature will help us to get back our adventure side spells, to recast them in our next turn for even more value and even another Eshki trigger. We also play Dreamstalker, a 2-mana 1/5, which is a great stat line for a blocker, and when it enters the battlefield, return a permanent you control to its owner's hand. By slinging these chains of spells together, we will get a bunch of Eshki triggers and she will be able to pressure our opponents a lot, and as we are in Temur colors, we will draw a bunch of cards that will help us to interact with our opponent's game plans. And if you want to win more, you get it. We play Hydra's Grove, a 3-mana enchantment aura, and when it enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on enchanted creature. Furthermore, at the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of +1/+1 counters on enchanted creature. One of the most powerful creatures in this deck is Jori-En Rune Diver, a 3-mana 2/3, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you draw a card. We will try to play at least 2 spells in a turn with Eshki on the battlefield, so Jori-En is an auto-include in this deck. We play Fangs of Colonia, a 2-mana sorcery, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature that had a +1/+1 counter put on it this way. You can also overload this card for 6 mana. We are not necessarily interested in doing that, and that makes it a perfect card for Eshki, as it is a very cheap and powerful sorcery in this deck. Eshki triggers at the beginning of combat on our turn, so we play also additional combat spells, like Full Throttle, a 6-mana sorcery. After this main phase, there are 2 additional combat phases. Furthermore, at the beginning of each combat this turn, untap all creatures that attack this turn. An alternative win-con of ours that we can also suit up with our enchantments and equipments is Aki Battle Squad, a 6-mana 6/6, and whenever one or more modified creatures you control attack, untap all modified creatures you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. This ability triggers only once each turn. And one of my favorite cards in this deck is Seize the Day, a 4-mana sorcery, untap target creature, which will be Eshki, and after this main phase there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. What I like about this card is that it has flashback for 3 mana, so it is another reusable spell from our graveyard in a later turn, which works a lot in our favor to generate even more card advantage with Eshki. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Eshki Dragonclaw. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.